Hi, welcome to session 15. In this session we're going to cover different types of electric guitars. We're going to talk about how pickups work, power chords, and how to use them. This is all about electric guitars and the heart of rock and roll. We're also going to learn about other styles though too. Learn about country guitar playing, a little bit about chicken picking, and a little bit about R&B stuff, a little bit about funk guitar playing as well. In the guitar tips section we're going to cover using guitar effects, distortion, reverbs, chorus, delays, a little bit about amps and amp modeling. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first thing I wanted to talk about is a couple of different types of guitars that are mainly used in electric work. Okay, there's three basic styles. Well, little variations in them, but here are the basic styles. This is a Strat, regular old Fender Stratocaster. Different guitar makers make them. Fender's the one that started it, and it's a unique body design, and they use single coil pickups. Okay, it's real good for pop things. Gets a little bit of a sweeter sound with a single coil sound, a little bit of a smaller sound, but very articulate and dynamic. That's a Strat. Okay, now we've got a Telecaster. This Telecaster is a little bit, you notice the body shape is a little bit different. Still has the cutaway here at the bottom, but the body shape is a little bit different. They're generally a little bit heavier than a Strat as well, although it depends on what type of wood is used, the weight of it. The thing that affects what your sound is going to be mainly your pickups, and a little bit of what your strings are. Everything else, what type of wood this is made out of, whether you have gold or silver tuners at the top, really doesn't mean anything with how your guitar is going to sound. But anyway, this is a good Telecaster. Telecasters are used almost exclusively for country guitar playing. A lot for good blues, a lot for good rock and roll. This is a good lead kind of guitar. A little bit on the harsher side of things. You can't get real warm and fuzzy with them, but these are just good for good old rock and roll stuff. Now let's talk about one more. Okay, this third guitar I want to talk about is a 335, Gibson ES335. Gibson puts them out, but Epiphone and many other manufacturers come out with this body style as well. It's a semi-hollow body guitar. What that means is that it does have an opening in the cavity right here. So you can hear it a little bit without amplification. Let me turn my volume off here. So you can't hear it very well, but there is a little bit of the sound there. Now, it uses these big pickups here, these big humbucking pickups. We're going to learn what those are here in a second. But it gets a real good jazzy kind of a sound. Used a lot for blues playing. B.B. King uses this, and as well, really good for jazz as well. You can do a lot of good styles with it, but it's mainly used for jazz and for blues stuff. Okay, let's talk about different kinds of pickups. I chose this guitar because this guitar just happens to have a kind of a mishmash of all different kinds of pickups, and I thought we could get a good example of them. First, let's talk about how pickups work. What are pickups? Well, various styles and shapes on guitars, but here's the three pickups that I have on this Telecaster. Now, I'm going to talk about this one first because it's a little bit easiest to see. All that a pickup is a magnet. It's kind of just a glorified magnet. You know how when you have two magnets and you put them together, you can kind of feel that force between them. That's all this is. When I pluck this big metal string, it is vibrating over the top of that, if you can see that silver circle there. That is actually the tip of a magnet. Okay? So if I play my string over the top of that string, over the top of that pickup, that magnet, it translates that into electricity, goes through a little volume, a little bit of tone, and that's basically your guitar. There's not a whole lot of complex electronics on the inside of your guitar. It's basically a couple of wires hooked up to these pickups. But there's two different types of pickups, single coil and double coil. Now, really anything that's metal vibrating over that pickup will work. Here I have my old tuning fork. Okay? Now, when I get this going, it's vibrating, and that pickup will sense that vibration as well. Guitars usually have a 3-way or a 5-way switch. If I'm all the way up in front, it's using the front pickup. If I'm all the way in the back, it's listening through this pickup, through the back pickup. If I'm in the middle, it's generally using this pickup. Okay, now regarding pickups, there's really only one type of pickup. It's just basically this magnet. Now, they wind different kinds of winding on it, wind some more, wind some less, but you'll hear single coil and double coil pickups. Basically, all a double coil or a humbucking pickup is basically two single coils side by side, or inverted, if you can imagine one's like this and the other one would be down like this. Okay, now the single coil pickups are great. We found out over the years that they're a little bit noisy. So when you get two of them, that's why they put these humbucking pickups. They found out if you invert them, then they get a quieter signal. So that's the difference between the two. They get a slightly difference in sound, but it's basically the same thing, just one of them is two of them and one of them is one of them. Okay, now let's talk about power chords. Okay, good old rock and roll stuff involves power chords. Okay, here's what is involved in a power chord. You may hear that term referred to a lot, and for many years I didn't know what in the world they were talking about. Basically, it's derived from the major scale. Remember how our major triad was 1, 3, and 5? Well, in a power chord, we take out the third, and so you're just left with the root and the fifth. In C, it would be a C and a G, and I play those at the same time. Let me take off my distortion there. A C and a G. If I'm in B flat, it would be a B flat and an F. The root and the fifth in that particular key. Now sometimes you'll even have a chord form. I'll have the octave down here on this C as well. So you'll see it as a 3-note chord, or sometimes you'll see it as a 2-note chord. If it's a 3-note chord, I use all 3. If it's a 2-note chord, I just use 2. Either way is fine. Either way are both power chords. Okay? But you're only using 2 different tones, the root and the fifth. Okay? Most power chords are based off of pivoting off of the 5th string, as in this one, C, B flat, or you can also do it off the 6th string, F and G, and very conveniently it works out to be the same form. Okay? Let's practice jumping through a little bit of that. Let's start on the 6th string power chord movable form first. Okay? This would be like an F power chord. Now, what do you do with these other 3 strings? Well, you're not supposed to play them. So you either kind of mute them down here, or you can mute them with this hand as well, using this finger, putting it down. But basically, you just try and keep a handle on not going too far down and not playing these extra strings. So this is an F power chord. Okay? Now let's jump around a little bit. If I wanted it in G, I pivot up to the 3rd fret, play it in G. If I wanted it in C, I have to jump all the way up here to C and play it in C. See how that works? Let's do a couple more. D. Let's do A. Now, if I want to do it on the 5th string, let's do it on the 5th string. This would be like your B power chord version. Okay? Same form. I got 1, 3rd, and 4th right there. Let's jump around a little bit. What if I wanted it in E? I have to jump all the way up here. What about, let's see, G? Up there. What if I wanted G on the other string? E down there. Okay? Now let's do some exercises with them. Okay, now that we've practiced jumping in a couple of different places with it, let's do our power chord exercise number 1. Okay? Starts off on a C chord. Sometimes you'll also see it written in notation as a C5, as opposed to a C7th or a C minor, something like that. You'll see it as a C5. That's trying to tell you it's a power chord. Okay, so let's look at that first example. I'll do it for you one time through nice and slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. Then I shift down to B flat. Then I do F. Rest. See how that works? We're just jumping from chord to chord using the same form. Again, I'm a guitar player. I like the simplest way of doing things. That's why guitar players love power chords. We don't have to worry about major, minor, anything. We just have to do them in the fifth or the fourth string, fifth or the sixth string, and do that power chord form. Okay? Let's do one more example. Before we do that, there are some open power chords. I've taught you the movable ones on the fifth string and on the sixth string. Now let's look at an open one. If I wanted an E power chord, it would just be open E and a B and an E, which if you can see, if I moved everything up a half step, there would be my F. So it's really the same chord. We just have it in an open form. The other one is an A. Okay? And again, I could do all three strings or just two. Whatever I want to do on that. Okay? Let's look at power chord exercise number 3 and go through that one together. Okay? Starts on an E. Let's play it using our movable chords first, and then we'll play it using our open chords. I'll go nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, rest. Rest, rest. Rest, rest, rest. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. To an A. Now let's play some open ones. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Or A. Okay, now if I sped it up a little bit, it comes out sounding something like this. 3. 2, 3, 4. So you just have to keep track of which strings are being muted, which strings you're picking aggressively down here. Okay? Now, let's learn a little bit about some other styles of electric guitar playing. Now let's talk about some country styles. Okay, country, they use a lot of chicken picking. It's a funny name, but basically here's all that I know about chicken picking. A lot of times they'll use a thumb pick, or they'll grow their nail along a little bit longer on this hand. So I'm using the thumb pick down here, and then I'm coming up with my first and second finger, or sometimes my third and fourth. So you kind of get this. And you're playing generally 2 notes at once, or what's called in the biz a double stop. Okay? They use a lot of bends in country music. Let me play that first lick I was playing again for you, and I'll slow it down a little bit. Okay, let's take that apart for a second. Let me slow it even further down. We'll go real slow. Okay, there's a whole bunch of combinations of techniques. We've got some hammer-ons going in there. We've got these 2 fingers plucking up with that. That's all part of that chicken picking style. One of the best chicken picking guys around with country guitar playing is a wonderful guitarist by the name of Brent Mason. Okay, he's playing on just about every country song that you hear on the radio these days, doing that chicken picking thing. And there's all kinds of great licks that you can use for that. That's just an example of one of them. They also use a lot of bends. Let's see if I could do a bend. Something like that, or maybe if I put them together, something like that. They also use arpeggios that use a lot of open strings. I'm going to show you one, and I'll play it real slow for you. Okay, let's see if I can play that a little bit faster. as you learn these licks, it takes a little bit of time to figure out these open strings, but it's well worth it to get a few of these licks underneath your belt in your tool bag, so when somebody says, hey, can you play something country? I don't know anything country, but I can do this. Oh, we're in D. I need to do it in D? No problem. Country guitar playing is almost always done in good guitar keys, which is A, D, and E. Good. Now I want to talk about one more style of guitar playing, a little bit about rhythm and blues, a little bit about R&B, funk guitar playing. We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about muted picking, but let me emphasize a couple of different things for you. It's a real percussive style, so you want to make sure you have a nice, good, thick pick, and as I'm playing, let me kind of switch pickups here. As I just play this A, if I play it hard enough, I kind of get this popping sound. So if I'm just playing, okay, a little bit about rhythm and blues playing. They use a lot of that. Instead of playing a full chord, they'll just use a little bit of part of a chord. Let me play one more example for you. Something like that. They use a lot of palm muting, a lot of taking the chord apart we talked about earlier, and they do sliding of fourths and fifths, which if I'm in A, I just slide up, kind of do it on the root, and then I do it on the fifth. They use that style a lot. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about guitar effects. Electric guitar players use them all the time. There's basically some basic common ones that are similar between all different effect boards that you need to have in your artillery to be able to get. Okay? First thing I want to talk about is distortions. Okay? I've got several different distortions here on my pedal board. If I crank, it just kind of breaks up the sound a little bit. Some of them have different characteristics. Let me switch over to this one here. That one's a little bit more softer and mellower. Use them differently in different situations. Let me talk to you about one specific type of pedal, an Ibanez Tube Screamer. Okay, this has been around for years and probably will continue to be around for years and years and years. Now, you'll notice distortion pedals have several things in common. They have a drive, and they also have a level knob, or sometimes you'll see it as gain. Think of it this way. Think of it like a water hose. Okay? The drive is what's coming into the system, and you can really boost that water hose. Okay? The level or the volume on is how much you're actually letting out of that big signal. So I can control whether I'm having a little signal coming into the system or a huge signal coming into the system, but nothing comes out until I open the spigot on this end and let out whatever. So if I have this huge signal coming here, then I've got to make sure and have my volume down appropriately, or I'm going to get this massive signal coming out. So if I want to be really distorted, I crank this gain all the way up, get it really distorted, really where it's really breaking up, but I only want to allow a little bit of it out, or I'm going to have this too much of a massive signal. It's going to be too loud. If I just want a little bit of distortion, or maybe I don't want distortion at all, crank this down nice and low and open this one up nice and big. That's a relationship between gain and volume. Another pedal that is real common to have is a chorus pedal. What it's doing, let me see if I can get a good chorus sound. Here's my guitar normal. If I add chorus, choruses expand your sound a little bit. Now there's choruses and flangers and phase shifters. They're all the same sort of a thing. It's taking your sound and taking it a little bit sharp, a little bit flat, and making it into a pleasant, you can control how much it's diverting the sound or not. Next thing everybody needs to have is some sort of a delay. Okay, I'm using a regular old Boss digital delay here. There's more exciting ones than this, but basically they all kind of do the same thing. I play my note, and it trails off. I can control how much it's feeding back, how loud that needs to be. I can make it feed back wherever if I want to. And also, when you do something like that, you can get kind of neat effects. Okay, so that's a little bit about reverbs and delays. Okay, reverb is more of like an echo, like you would hear in a room. Let me crank my reverb up. Kind of makes it sound like you're in a big place. I want to talk about one more. Okay, now I'm going to use my wah pedal a little bit. Okay, let's see, what can I do? Okay, a little bit about using your wah pedal. It takes a while to get used to the feel of how that cycles through, but it's a great effect, especially in funk playing. You can get a lot of good use out of wahs. Okay, now let's go to our How Music Works section. Okay, very quickly I wanted to touch on a very important concept called the harmonized major scale. Not so important about the name, but I want you to understand the concept of what's going on. If I take a major scale, let's say a C major scale, and I'm going to build things, I'm going to stack 2/3 above it. So I actually have a major triad, a 1, 3, and a 5. Then I stack thirds on all of those going all the way up the scale. Well, the first step, if I did it in C, it would be 1, 3, and 5, or C, E, and G, which comes out to be a C major triad. And the next one, I would be 2, 4, and 6, which would be D, F, and A. Well, now, if you notice, if you just look at that, D, F, and A, and think of it in the key of D just for a second, it doesn't turn out to be major, it turned out to be minor. A 1, flat 3, and a 5, if I'm looking at it in the key of D. It's very important. The second step will get you a minor triad. If I go to the next one, I get E, G, and B. Okay, that also ends up being a minor triad. The fourth, F, A, and C, is back to major. Fifth, back to major, G, B, and D. Sixth is back to minor, A, C, and E. Seventh, B, D, and F actually ends up being a diminished triad if you look at it based off of that B. This becomes real important. Some of them are major, some of them are minor. In any key, any major key, it's going to be that same relationship. Which ones are major? The 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Which ones are minor? The 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 6 chord. And the one that's off is the 7, that's a diminished. That's a harmonized major scale concept. Very important. I would practice that in different keys so you can get an idea of how that flows. 1, 4, and 5 are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor. Okay, let's talk about your assignment for this week. I would like you to practice the power chords using good technique. Play the exercises and the song examples in your book. Work out the chicken picking exercises that are in there as well, and make some up on your own. I would like you to practice the sliding fourth and fifths in various key combinations. Those exercises are in your book as well. And don't forget the Jam Along CDs give you plenty of opportunity to get some good practice in power chords, sliding, as well as the chicken picking stuff. Okay, we'll see you at the workshop. Okay, now it's our workshop time. This is the time where we work those concepts out that we've learned in session 15, get them underneath our fingers. Okay, let's review power chords. Remember we did them on the 5th string and the 6th string. The 5th string version, if I wanted to do like a B power chord, you have your 1st finger, 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the 4th fret, pinky is covering the 3rd string at the 4th fret. Okay, get a little fuller sound here. On the 6th string bar chord, like an F bar chord, not bar chord, what am I talking about? Power chord. Okay, so let's jump around in some different places on those. Let's say I wanted a G power chord. Well, if I did it on the 6th string, it'd be like this. What about if you did it on the 5th string? What about a C power chord on both the 6th and the 5th string? 6th first, C, 5th string. What about E flat? Let's do E flat on both strings. 6th string would be way up here. 5th string. Let me crank on some distortion here. Switch to my back pickup, get a little more of a rock and roll sound. Let's do 2 more. Let's do a F, 6th string, 5th string. Let's do like a B flat, 6th string, and 5th string. Power chord exercise number 1. Let's do it real slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest. Rest. Upbeat here. Back again. Good. Now let's go power chord exercise number 2. We'll start this one pretty slow. 1, 2, ready, go. Let's skip down to power chord exercise number 4. We'll take it pretty slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time, go. Good. Now, let's talk about our chicken picking exercise. Remember the lick that we learned? Let's do it nice and slow. 1, 2, ready, go. Slow it down even a little bit more. Now if I wanted to do that in E, I move the whole picture down here, and it's pretty much the same finger pattern. In E, ready, go. Now I can also do it in D. Let me just show that to you real quick. I just have to adjust my fingers. Instead of being flat here on this partial bar with your first finger, I'm going to use 1 and 2. In D it would be... So a little bit of different, a little bit different fingering there, a little bit of a finger twister there. Okay. Last one I want to show you is our descending arpeggio in A using open strings. Okay, we'll go through it real slowly because it's kind of tricky. Starts on the A at the 5th fret, G, then open E string. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. one more time. That's just the first half of it. Going on to the next part. Okay. Okay, so the two parts of that lick, we have the first part and the second part. I'll put them both together now. Okay, a little bit faster. Great. Now, work on those sliding fourths and fifths exercises as well. These are some of the colors that you can use in your electric guitar playing that make your playing stand out and be unique. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen and to learn. Now it's your turn to go and work on it and become the guitar player that you need to be. I'll catch you later.